All right, you guys ready for a little midweek edition Pocket Change Market Report? Because I sure as heck am. Welcome, April 20th, 2022. Hope everyone's having a fantastic start to your, end of day. But by the time I'm uploading this, it's going to be late afternoon for a lot of folks. But there you go. We're getting it out on a Wednesday, and these are going to be some of the coolest finds, not only in Pocket Change. I want to throw that caveat out there because there are a few people recently that have just came out and said, well, you can't find most of these in Pocket Change. I'm like, well, let me explain. All right. So, I've allowed myself to kind of explain the best way that I can, and still there's no reciprocation of any of that information coming back to me. So, they're pretty much holding me to that. But, yeah, the problem children are no longer around. And, I will reiterate once again that anywhere you could find any of these coins, that's going to be highlighted in this market report. All right, so we're talking about going through your Pocket Change, going through bank rolls from the bank, of course, and, some of the more kind of outside things that people do, going through just full mint bags of some of these coins. You'll find some of the errors and varieties. In addition, going to the coin shop and coin shows and simply cherry picking some of these are just a few ways that you could not only enhance your collection with some pretty neat stuff at a low cost, but in addition, if you needed to supplement your income, this is another great kind of activity that you could add to the repertoire to make it happen. So I wanted to throw that caveat out there. Hopefully there is some understanding as to how some of these coins make it onto the list. And of course, as I go through the coins today, I'm going to give you some insight as to where some of these coins may be found. All right? Like I always do, week in and week out. I think people just don't watch the video, and they take the first, say, 30 seconds of the video and hold you to that. It's simply not fair, and quite frankly, I just don't care. Anyways, we're going to get into it. Again, all coins are ungraded. Everything that is sold, you could find, and you could list as is. With good photography, good close-ups, you can make it happen. And collectors, there are a number of collectors in the error coin market that will pay you handsomely for some of your finds. In addition, before we jump in, all of the listings are true to the listing listers listing items. None of the images have been juiced, lightened up, sharpened up, anything like that. You're going to get a little bit of a photography lesson if it came down to it. We come across a coin that maybe is a little out of focus or too dark. I'll let you guys know about it. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Thank you guys again for joining in. And we're going to start it off for one of the most underrated coins that you could find out there. Now, I say underrated, but there are going to be people that say, well, I look for this all the time. And I'm hoping so. So in 1970, the U.S. Mint made kind of a mistake. They actually struck a number of 1970 Denvers. Okay, these are Denver minted coins. And they accidentally struck them on dime thickness stock. So, yeah, when the blanks were first punched out of the strip, they used dime thickness strip as opposed to one that's quarter thickness. So, yeah, these things are going to be a little bit thinner than the standard quarter. Now, the seller failed to throw up kind of like a comparison of the edge. I think that's okay because there's going to be something else that the seller did do to kind of help plead their case of why they ended up with a very respectable sale. For a 1970 quarter struck on dime thickness stock, you're going to find a lot of weakness. All right, mostly it's going to be relegated to the edge of the coin and all of those devices. You're going to see some general weakness on not only the front of the coin but also the reverse as well. Okay, it seems to me that right where United States of America seems to be one of those common places where it's going to look and appear weakly struck. But these particular errors, you're going to see some of the weakness on both sides of the coin, not just the obverse. Now, the seller did provide a weight of this coin at 4.37 grams. constitutes over a 1 gram difference in weight. All right, a standard quarter thickness, I guess, coin weighs out at 5.67 grams, and this is for copper nickel clad. So this is the only date that you're going to find this occurrence. Again, a really neat coin to find. The seller did a really good job with the images. Even did one with the scale here, which helps tremendously. This one ended up selling for $40, and considering that the coin doesn't look like something you could write home to mother about, I mean, this is a really good sale on this one in its current condition. All right, the next one that we have here, and I promise this is probably one of only a couple off-center struck coins. Again, the coin video Nazis were out in the last couple weeks, and we're going to go ahead and talk about just a few off-center strikes because these folks seem to think that these cannot be found in change. When in fact, I found quite a few of them myself, not only in going through rolls, but also going through U.S. Mint bags as well. And that's generally where you're going to find a lot of these. Now, this particular coin, of course, is not U.S., but this is from our neighbors up north. The Canadian 1978 cent that you see here is off-center by a very small bit. I would say probably less than 10%. But what do we know about Canadian errors? They're quite scarce. And there's a very dedicated collector base for these coins. This one right here ended up selling $50 Canadian shipped, which is a really good amount of money even with the conversion to US currency. It still sells for quite a bit more than any other US coin of the same date. So if you do come across these Canadian off-centers or strike-throughs or clips or anything like that, keep in mind they're a really good seller on the market if you don't have a place for it in your collection. Now, when I came across this really early on in my research, I was shocked. All right, so we have two Lincoln Memorial cents here that exhibit some really nice sized cut die breaks. A piece of the die had broken and fallen off, okay, and that's all a result of continuous use. I mean, these things do break down over time, just like an automobile. But as you can see, it was right over the date, so we don't know what the date is. However, these are both the same. They're the same date, if we knew what that was. Same cud, same placement, and all that stuff. So we could determine that they are indeed the same date, even though we don't know what the date is, based off of the area of which this cud is at. One is a little bit later state than the other, but still, just a ginormous kind of cud. And this is a 2-coin set, ladies and gentlemen, which you don't see that often. Again, cuds are kings in the marketplace today. This pairing ended up selling for $155.50 with 10 bids. A lot of people were interested in these. All right, so I believe this is the only other lot of off-center struck coins, but this is not on the list because you can find these in change. Like I said, keep an eye out for lots. With lots means you could probably get these for a little bit cheaper rate. And the big idea is you come across a lot at a discounted rate that you've paid for on eBay, you add it to your collection, or for those who are savvy enough to resell on eBay, you just simply take all 4 of these coins, resell them individually. And the idea is you want to come as close to possible, if not going over, to doubling your money. In this particular case, we have 4 really decent examples, all with full dates: 1990, 97, 99, and 2000, okay? All full dates, and if they had mint marks, you could see those as well. This 4-coin lot ended up selling for $63.01 with 29 bids. Now, when you break it down, that comes in at just over $15 per coin, $15.75 to be pretty close to exact. So you really have to do your research. Are these things selling for double that? I don't think so. There's a couple of very, very common dates here. The 99 and 2000 definitely stick out. The 2000 isn't in great shape with the staining that you see there. So all in all, I'd say the potential to make any sort of money on this lot has long gone away. Now, if it had sold for under $40 shipped, that might have been a good shot. But, you know, this one right here, was a little bit on the money. No pun intended. Now this one's cool. Now keep in mind that this is a 43p silver wartime nickel. It's very worn and circulated, as you would find on a lot of these dates. Very rarely do you come across a silver wartime nickel in change that looks pristine. So we're going to have to kind of use this one as a model of what you can expect to find out there. Now this is a really good date. There's a few very notable varieties that you could find on this one. Even in this condition, they're easy to spot. Now this particular one right here is the 43/42 over date. You can see that diagonal bar right there, which is one of the kind of like the attributes that you need to look out for that overdate. Now there is another type that looks like the overdate, but in reality it's a die crack or a chip. So those are going to come to kind of a different form, but you guys saw the condition. Again, it's not a super high-end example, but if you needed to sell your coin and you have one of these, I'm happy to say that they do have some secondary market value. In this particular instance, this one sold for $44.99, which is a really good amount of money for this variety that is constantly being seeked out for because they are really neat. Now, miraculously, this is one I haven't seen before. We actually have not one, but two 1996 $50 bills. This is the newly revised big head non-colorized generation, okay, which only spanned about, like 6-7 years before the BEP decided to add some coloration and various other anti-counterfeiting type of technology on there. But this one, as you can see, has a little bit of a gutter, what they call a gutter fold. That's that line right there where the sheet originally had a wrinkle, and then it was printed over. So that's how we come up to this type of error right here. The note is in fantastic shape. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's circulated, if any. I would say these were probably found in a brand new BEP bank strap back in the day. But this particular example here sold for $143, which is nearly 3 times face, which is pretty good, considering that gutter folds are generally on the low end of the totem pole for paper money errors. But there was also a second example from the same seller. This one has 2 gutters, so we had a couple wrinkles in this one. This one is, I think, in my estimation, a better presented looking note compared to the previous example. And there's the back for you. So at one point, the wrinkle was kind of stretched out before the back print was applied. This one sold for $146.50 with 2 bids this time. So someone had thrown in a little quick extra bid in there. This one ended up selling for a few bucks more. Now this one's neat, but it's also a testament that you should look at every single coin. I know that seems kind of boring and mundane, but this is a well-circulated Texas statehood quarter, all right? At first glance, there doesn't seem to be really anything to kind of like draw your eye to, but with enough diligent kind of like, looking at it with a magnifier, I think you could really identify some pretty neat things. This particular coin has a few small little interior die chips. Okay, you can see them on the perimeter of the state of Texas. And guess what? The photos are dynamite. This is exactly what you want to see on a listing: a full obverse, a full reverse, and then any appropriate close-ups to help you make the sale. So as something as minor and very innocuous as this coin, it ended up selling for $17.80. Kind of like, a little testament to the possibilities of what you can find out there. Something as minor as this, someone will buy it because they've never seen it before. They're going to go ahead and get it attributed by a site like Cuds on Coins, have their name cemented on this particular find. There's a myriad of different reasons. Plus, there are dedicated statehood quarter collectors of errors. Okay, this would be a good one to add to that. And here's a really cool variety. It's been quite some time since I've found one of these. I think the last time I cherry-picked a 52S over S RPM dime was probably back in 2009 when I was actively going through a lot of BU dimes. This particular example is in really nice shape. It looks like it was minted yesterday. It's got that nice blast white appearance. And you can see that extra top curl of the S that's going northwest of the primary mint mark right there. And that is actually a really nice one. I believe this one's in the Cherry Picker's Guide as well. This one, not too bad, $19.99, considering that melt value is under $3 for this coin. So, yeah, again, another possibility where you can make some money looking for some of these varieties. Now, we had a number of rotated die Jefferson nickels on our last PCMR episode, so we have one more here. Okay, this time I'm going to throw you a curveball. 1995D, it's a Denver. It seems to be that there's been a number of Denver rotated die errors. This one is pretty major, though. Using kind of like the markers on the 2x2 with those staples, this one, a fantastic representation of how you should photograph this particular error. Take a look at the back. It's got about 135 degree clockwise rotation. Simply incredible. And this is something that you just don't see out there. And I would venture to guess that 90% of the people that hunt through coins don't even take the time to rotate their coins to see if this error exists. And again, nickels have been showing quite a bit of these rotated die errors, and Denver's showing lots of love. This one ended up selling for $26, which is pretty good considering that the coin is pretty nicked up and circulated. All right, so it's not a gem of any stretch, but yeah, I mean, just a good old beat up circulated coin that generally would have no other love than 5 cents of your time. Well, it's worth a lot more to a collector. Now, this is a neat one. It's not a high-end coin, but it's in nice shape. I would say it's probably like an AU50 1972 Lincoln. This is a Philadelphia minted example. It's got no visible mint mark under the date, but this one is, again, you gotta check out all the 72s you come across because there's a bunch of doubled dies to look for. This one just so happens to be FS102, so this is DDO number 2 out of the 10 or plus or however many there is. It's quite nice. There's quite a bit of doubling specifically on Liberty, but there's a little doubling on the date as well. You got that fatter kind of double-tailed 9 right here. You got the notch on the top of the 7. Things like that. I mean, this is another good one to look out for. The doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," is especially powerful. So make sure that you're getting in close to the motto of every single one of these doubled dies. More to come on the 72s. We have another good one. In this condition, this coin surprisingly sold for $93.90. Another great one to look out for amongst a bunch of great double dies. Well, now that I got you guys acclimated with the 2013 B star notes, because the Fort Worth BEP actually double printed the same serial numbers, those silly rabbits. Well, we could start talking about them intermittently into these PCMRs. So we got another one here. This is a much later printed. It says FW here by the plate number. But this one, the seller had mentioned that there's 5 zeros, a 5 of a kind, or however you want to classify it, which, believe it or not, I kind of think it helped the sale a little bit. This particular note, as well circulated as it is, did sell for $105. By the way, that's not kind of like the typical dollar range for these notes. They usually fall between like 15 to 35, 40 bucks, somewhere around there. So for this one to hit over a C note is very notable, but I think the allure of all the zeros on the serial number kind of helped play a factor in that. So there's a little bit of the image of the back. Yeah, it's been folded in half quite a few times. So not a pretty looking note, but one that's very relevant to this type of collecting niche. And of course, keep an eye out for the FW on these. That's going to be the printing for 2017 of this particular note. Again, wildly popular. These notes are selling for big bucks online. Now here's a 34D Washington quarter. So this is going to be another exercise in looking through your silver coins because you never know what little gem you're going to find. Now the seller did mention, and it's really not relevant, it's a medium motto. However, there is a little bit of a small detached lamination area above the motto "In God We Trust," as you can see there on the coin. The coin's in decent shape too. Probably a low-end AU. It's definitely circulated. This one ended up selling, surprisingly, for $77.85 with 16 bits. It's wild. I think this is probably lends more to the actual condition of the coin than it is the actual error, because the error is quite minor. Now, what's not minor is this 1917S. There's a few things going on here, so allow me to explain. Well, the first glaring thing that you see on the reverse of this coin is going to be that tremendous lamination. It's a lamination that, throughout its 100 plus years of circulation, little pieces have detached. There's been a lot of circulation wear, a lot of grime and grease and stuff had filled into those areas, and that's kind of how it got that big black kind of crack to it. But on the other side of the coin, actually on the obverse, you're going to find that it's got also a little bit of an improper alloy mix. It's got a nice little wood grain surface on there. This one sold for $31.76 with 17 bids. So obviously this was neat enough to garner a lot of bids and a lot of activity. All right, there's something missing here, and yeah, I just can't put my finger on it. It's a 1985 $1 bill. Oh yeah, I know what's missing. Well, all the serial numbers and district seals, right? Well, it got inadvertently printed on the reverse of the note. All right, so the sheet never got flipped before that third print or overprint was applied. So this is the byproduct. These have shown up quite a bit on the secondary market. It's rare, but at the same time, it's not prohibitively rare, like, your whole life depended on it. But yeah, this is a pretty neat example right here. It's a very crisp, clean example. Yeah, it's circulated just a smidge. It's not a whole lot. This one sold for $295. The money is strong for this one. Coins and cards coming back with some heaters. We have an 1857 Flying Eagle penny, for crying out loud. And not just any penny. This is a really nice high-grade example. XF plus Flying Eagles are very tough, and problem-free examples go for moon money. However, if you look close enough, this one has that pretty sizable die chip on the wing. This is actually a snow variety. It comes out at, snow 16, I believe. It's not particularly rare. I've seen a few of these. I've owned one at one point, albeit not at this grade level. But this is just a really nice type coin that if you were looking for one to add to your collection, just to have an example of a Flying Eagle, this would be the pick of the litter. This one sold for $382.77 with 26 bids. Great looking example. Now, this is a coin, yet again, that most people would overlook. I mean, who's to argue with a well-circulated 1944 Lincoln? It looks like something that you could find in a penny box today. Generally, you'll average anywhere from 8 to 15 wheat cents in a $25 penny box, considering that they're not completely brand new, dated coins. But look at the reverse. This one, very weakly struck on the reverse. You could say that it's been struck through a lot of grease, or it could be a little bit of a tapered planchet. And the reason why I say that is you have a little bit of weakness on this edge right here, this rim. I'm leaning more toward the grease argument here, but this is just a really cool coin. Again, it doesn't matter the condition. You need to have kind of the just the confidence in knowing that this is going to sell regardless. This coin sold for $15, which I think at the end of the day is a really good amount of money for something that generally everybody would overlook. Now, this is not a typical date for the missing FG initials reverse, but it's 83D. This is a Denver minted Kennedy half dollar, and this is not in any publication. It's not in the Cherry Picker's Guide. I don't think it's online either, like on Wexler's or Dr. Wild sites or Wexler sites or anything like that. But this is a Denver minted Kennedy. As you can see, in this area, they're supposed to be Frank Gasparo's initials. And these got either a braided away or a filled die. It could be either or. I think on these ones, they are, I think, a braided away, which means over polished. This particular example ended up selling for $16.50 with 2 bids. Again, a scarce date, in spite of its circulated condition, still scooped up for a decent amount of money. Well, we do have another gutter fold, this time on a 1988 $1 bill. This one has a few events. We have one pretty notable gutter fold and a butterfly fold as well to kind of add a lot of intrigue and, just eye appeal to this note. You can see on the back of the note as well some of the shenanigans going on there. This one sold for a very stout $201 with 13 bids. And I would venture a guess that this one's going to end up in a graded holder one day because it's very deserving of it with the multiple events going on here. Always love talking about these. This is a late stage 1982 Lincoln Memorial Cent. A really wild strike through. The seller, I guess, mentioned that this was struck through grease, but I think more appropriately, this looks like it was struck through a late stage cap die. All right, and you just have a lot of weakness on the obverse of this coin, offset by that really strong reverse. If it was a lot of grease, you would see a little bit of a greasy strike on the reverse as well, because that stuff gets everywhere, man. This one right here, you can tell is a bronze coin. It is indeed a large date 1982. You can just tell from looking at the 8 in relation to the other numbers of the date. This one ended up selling beautiful $85 with 13 bids. And here's again another silver coin to look out for. We all come across these, whether it's a Washington, a Roosevelt, a Mercury dime, a Walking Liberty $50, and they're all quite minor at first glance, right? This one has a little bit of a curved clip right here above the B in Liberty. And again, it's very, very minor, very, very obscure to the naked eye. But that's what it is. And it does have a little bit of a Blakesley effect right under the 5 and 7 of the date. So just a little general flatness right there going on. But otherwise, this is just a coin that in melt value terms is worth about, $5.75 or somewhere around there, $6. This one ended up selling for $19.99. So that's 3x your melt value. It's a great way to enhance your fundage. If you want to go out and buy more silver, just look out for little minor things like this. And the market will respond with a sale. Same here, 1957 Lincoln wheat cent. Again, not a superb high-end coin, but again, if you're not looking for these, you're really doing yourself a little disservice. Okay, this one has that little BIE die chip that is connecting the B and E in Liberty. Always a popular find. At first glance, are very minor, but these are very well collected based off of the progression and size of the die chip. Okay, the reason why they call it a BIE, the die chip looks like a formed letter I, so that's cool. This one sold for $15.50, which is a really nice amount of money for this, with 14 bits. Okay, so we have another 2013 B Star Note. Okay, it's another Fort Worth. It actually looks a lot better than the previous example, but it doesn't have the ultra super cool serial number like the other one does with all the zeros. What can we say about this one? Well, it's just a very desired note because it's a duplicate printing. Again, this is from the Fort Worth printing facility. You can see that FW there by the plate number. This particular example sold for $32.23. Again, that's more within kind of like that normal range in which these sell for. The $100 or the $70 or the $150 sales are generally not the typical kind of like run-of-the-mill sales for these because they're plentiful. About 8.5 million of these were printed from the Fort Worth facility. All right, so there's quite a few of them out there, but again, people are looking to pair up both the Washington D.C. stars and the Fort Worth stars and have a serial number pair of the same type, and that's where the big money is. So again, this is going to continue to live on very gracefully, but I wouldn't wait too much longer if you're looking out for these. All right, talk about poor coin got the short end of the stick. This is a 1916 Lincoln wheat cent that has been cleaned up and down. This thing is not really a very nice coin. However, good luck and good job on the seller for identifying that this is indeed a clamshell lamination. You can see that split there on the edge. Always something to look out for if the coin seems a little hollow or funny when you pick it up or toss it in, with other pennies. It's probably worth looking at. This one ended up selling for $22.99. Oh boy, we got another pair of dollar bills. This time we have 1977 A's here. Now, the notes have kind of like this funny kind of light staining on both examples. Okay, so I mean they're not aesthetically pleasing to the eye when you look at them. However, you have to kind of be complete about your searches and identifying some pretty cool stuff. This one will hit you in the face. I mean, no doubt about it. It's got a pretty sizable solvent smear. And after looking at the staining a little bit more, it looks like kind of like a rust stain or a chemical stain. It's kind of weird. The staining certainly suppressed the market on these two notes here. What's also kind of cool is that they're sequential, 4748 on the serials. So there is that as well. With that being said, this two-note lot kind of, dwindled to $95.49. While not nothing, the opportunity for these things to go up in value increases when they don't have the unsightly staining. And some people are finicky about it. There's just no give. There's no leeway. They want really nice notes with no problems. Nope, not an off-center coin. This is actually another type of error. As you can tell, it's off-center on the front, but it's completely centered on the back. All right, so what do we have here? This is a misaligned die error. So that that hammer die jostled a little bit. It's a little bit loose, so when it continuously strikes all the coins, it's not going to strike in the perfect centered strike. I don't know, 50% of the time, maybe more. I'm not sure, but it's wear and tear thing. This is an 84p. It's very well circulated. So this thing was floating around out there in change and cash registers for quite some time. This one right here sold for $23.67, which, again, is a pretty good amount of money for these. And with misaligned dies, the more misaligned the one side is, where it cuts off some of the devices, that's where it's going to be much more liquid in the market. And of course, we got the 1972 Lincoln with the infamous FS101 double die. This is the big one, ladies and gentlemen, and people are still finding these in rolls and in change, like weekly. It's amazing, but these are big money when you come across them. You can see all the doubling in Liberty and the motto, and then also in the date. It's very strong. Oh, and the front of the jacket too. I am missing other areas, but those are the major ones. This one right here, in its condition, is beautiful, by the way. $338.95 with 32 bits. So the market will never dwindle on these. Actually, the reverse is going to be true. Over time, as the nicer examples disappear off the market, you're going to find that people are going to pay similar amounts of money for lesser condition examples. Now, this one took me a quick second to find out what we have here. It's a 1941 Jefferson nickel. So if you look at it, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, there's really nothing special. It's just a beat-up nickel. But take a look at this big thing going right here, this gob. That's actually a cut. I've never seen this one before, and that is quite special. It's quite special. It doesn't have a ton. It has a little bit of weakness over pluribus here, which is what you want to see on this type of error. This one ended up selling for $42.88 with 4 bids. So, again, that kind of like advice holds true. Look at everything and get in close if you have to, just to kind of rule things out or rule them in. Because this one looks like it's passed through many hands before it got detected. And then more cuds. How about 1982? Small date this time. Man, this thing is awesome. This is an example that you don't see come up in the marketplace too often. It's also a bronze composition coin, which is nice. That matters to the collectability. Most folks don't really want the copper-coated sinks, although they will pay the big money to own those as well. This one right here sold for $214.50 with 8 bids. These CUD prices are absolutely astronomical, and again, they are incredibly popular. They're going to continue to go up in value. All right, guys, a few more coins to go. We have, of course, quick little update on the 2021 Tuskegee Airmen strike-through. Right on the Tuskegee Airmen headquarters. You can see it looks like it's a burning building there. Just a little bit of a field-restricted strike-through where the feeder finger actually kind of pushes around a little bit of grease on the dies, and that's how you come up with these occurrences. This one right here, still a solid performer, even though the strike-through is on the small side. Sold for $57.99 with 3 bids. And here's just a really good kind of like find. These coins I've seen come across bulk inventory at a coin shop, 1907 Liberty Head V nickel with a pretty sizable either strike through or lamination. It's some sort of planchet flaw on there around the front of the coin. This example sold for $30.49. Keep in mind, these are generally sold at coin shops for about $1. When they become this low in grade, they have a hard time selling it, but they do skip over things like this. Not much to see here. This is just a great big old stack of star notes of all condition and of all dates. This is actually $180 face value. Okay, so if you have a bunch of bulky star notes of high run production numbers, like 3.2 million, this is probably a good way of getting rid of it, all the while trying to make a few bucks in the process. So $180 of star notes ended up selling for $260. Before fees and all that, yeah, it's an $80 profit, but at the end of the day, it's probably more like a $50 profit after fees and shipping. So not too bad. You do get rid of all your notes and you make a few dollars in the process. And then finally, we're going to hit it off on this crinkly bad boy right here, this Roosevelt dime that nobody really, can explain. I mean, we know it was struck through a late stage cap die, but boy, was that cap die really late stage. It was razor thin, it was beginning to crinkle up, and then, when it strikes other coins, this is your end product. This is just a fantastic example, really nice high grade piece. Believe it or not, it's a 1980s example here. These have come up not only in bankrolls, but most of the time they do come up in sealed bank bags from back in the day. All solid dated of one type, one denomination, and people used to go through them and find these type of errors. Just a really cool looking coin here. But yeah, this one right here sold for $105. Okay, the cap die strike throughs are more valuable on some of the more well-known or well-collected denominations like cents and quarters. But on a dime, selling one for over $100, ain't too shabby. That's a really nice payday right there. Well, that's going to go ahead and do it for the midweek edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. Hopefully you guys had a really good time checking out things here. That's me, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Hopefully, you guys had a really good time. It gave you a little inspiration to do a little hunting of your own. There's plenty to look out for out there, whether you're a coin roll hunting nut or if you like to go to the shop or show. There's a lot of opportunity here to really make some good money or add something pretty nice to your collection. That's it. my coinaholics, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next coin video. You guys don't be shy now. I'll see you.